Hey class, and welcome to this week's lesson, Lesson 9. By now, the group projects are well underway. You got a couple weeks under your belt. Hopefully, you've built that good communication chain with your group. Things are going good. Got the first couple assignments under your belt. So you're understanding that process of how to work together as a team and one person submit it. So keep up the great work. I like what I'm seeing. I know there's maybe a couple groups that have some people that aren't participating. My only advice there is just press on. You know, sometimes that's hard. You want everybody to participate, but there's going to be hiccups, and there may be that one or two person that doesn't, like I've mentioned before. So just press on and keep doing what you can do. You know, so far in this group project, last week we built our values and our mission statement and our strategy. This week we're going to be adding more to that. We're going to be talking about priorities, and we're going to be talking about measurement. So those are going to be the focus of our project this week. This week for the application activity, there's only one assignment to submit. You won't be doing anything in Excel. It will just be a Word document that you'll submit talking about your priorities and your measurements. So let's talk a little bit about that. In the priority section, when you are talking about how you prioritize stuff in a group or in a business or anything like that, a lot of the talk is going to be around risk. And there's three kind of different risk categories when you're navigating this field of starting a business. And again, this doesn't just apply to startup. This probably, this can apply to things in your life. This can apply to an everyday job that you have. Maybe in an everyday job, the company you work for has already kind of established those values and mission statements, maybe even strategy. But risk, I really like this topic because risk is something that you'll encounter on a daily basis. Should I do this or should I do this, right? What are the risks? What are the calculated risks? What are the unknown risks that you might have in your decision? It's kind of funny to think about, what are the unknown risks, right? Because you don't know. Also, I apologize if you hear some background noise. That's just my kids upstairs playing. Anyway, so we're gonna be talking about that. The three risks that we're gonna be talking about. The first one is deal killer, right? And it's pretty self-explanatory. It sounds like what it is. So if there's some sort of risk that's a deal killer, like it cancels the whole project. Let's say you're building a lemonade stand, and lemons only come from, I don't know, a certain region in Mexico or something like that, right? And if all of a sudden there's a bad crop, or Mexico decides it's not going to export lemons anymore, and you literally can't buy lemons, right? That's a pretty big deal killer. You can't run a lemonade stand without lemons. So there's risks like that when and it's good to identify those risks. What are things that would just shut down my business in its tracks, right? So if you didn't have certain raw materials, maybe that would. If you didn't have the right, blender or whatever to make the lemonade, maybe that would be kind of a deal killer, right? Certain things that just would bring the whole project to a halt. That's what a deal killer risk is. The next one is path-dependent risks. This is probably more of what you will face. A lot of times the deal killer stuff, not that, it cancels the project, there's usually an alternative to that, right? If Mexico all of a sudden stops exporting lemons, maybe I get my lemons from Florida, right? Just because my supplier doesn't mean I have to. So with that kind of leads into path-dependent risks. And that's when you have to choose between two options. Maybe when you were setting up this business, you were debating, should I get my lemons from Florida or should I get them from Mexico? I can get them cheaper from Mexico, so I'm going to go with the Mexico one, because if I can get them for cheaper, that means I can profit more, right? So that's kind of a path-dependent risk that you take. You had the option to choose. You kind of weigh out, is there going to be, the risks of maybe having to import something versus having something stateside or, nationally or locally. Maybe the locally one's more expensive, but the supply is better and more consistent, where the external or, the imported product from another country, maybe it's a little bit cheaper, but there's a risk of getting it, or it takes longer to get, those kind of things are path-dependent risks that you will encounter in starting your lemonade stand, and really in any business. A lot of times you're faced with two different options. Should I do this or should I do that, right? And you kind of have to weigh out those risks. kind of jumping forward a little bit, but sometimes there's ways you can measure those risks, right? You can actually quantify those risks, which I, being a math person and an engineer, love. I like to be able to quantify things. Sometimes it's not possible though. You know, maybe you're path dependent on what color should my sign be, right? And you know, maybe it's not that data driven. It's more kind of intuitive or subjective, and it's harder to gauge those type of risks. So that's path dependent risks. Then the last one is operational risks. Operational risks to me are, they are a risk, but they're more like go and do type things, right? Like, you know, say I bought a lemonade stand, and one of the things I need to do before I open it is I need to paint it. It's not really, I mean, it's a, like if it's not painted by the time you open, that could be, you know, it looks bad, but it's more like you just need to go do it, right? You just kind of have to go execute. It's not necessarily something that's going to stop the business or anything like that. You just go and do. And there probably isn't a whole lot of research you have to do on it. It's just physically, it's almost like your checklist day-to-day things. And those things, you know, are just more, you know, maybe some of the risk there is, do you have enough manpower to get it done? Can you do it by yourself? Do you need external help? Things like that. But really just kind of executing the projects and things that you have going on. So for the projects, what you'll be doing is you will be identifying those 3 categories of risks and your business, and identifying what risks are in your business and how you plan to eliminate those, how you plan to overcome those risks, right? And so I'll be looking for that in your report this week. The next part of the project this week is going to be talking about measurement. And a big word that you talk about in measurement in a business, and maybe you all have heard this, but it's metrics. Metrics is like business lingo, right? And the metrics and how you measure things can also really help identify risk, but it also can really help guide a business. My one suggestion to you as you set up metrics this week, or measurements this week, is to make sure you keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Especially in this scenario, you know, this is a hypothetical lemonade stand. There's no need to dive into some super complex measurement system, right? Let's keep it simple. But just know that like metrics really are a key part of running a business. And I would argue that probably 50% of my job, I don't know if you remember from week 1, but I'm what's called an operations manager at a manufacturing plant. And so what I do probably 50% of the time is measure how the plant is doing. Are we producing enough product each day? Or is my production lines running at the right rate to be able to produce that product? Do I have the right manpower on my lines? You know, if I have too much, then it's costing me too much money. If I have too little, I might be behind. I might not be able to run as fast as I need to be able to produce that product. You know, how efficiently is my plant running? I would say that's like 50% of what I do day in, day out. And a lot of that I report up to a senior leadership team once a month. You know, this is how Salt Lake City did for the month of February. You know, we were green, we were good on this, and this, but we struggled in this area. And that's why I love measurements and metrics, is because it tells you as a, you know, either as an employee or a future as you're a leader and a manager, it tells you where you need to go focus. Because now I, as the manager of the plant, I can say, okay, in March, we're gonna go focus in this area because we were behind last month, right? These areas were green, I'm not gonna worry about those. I'm gonna go focus on the area that needs to improve a little bit. And you monitor that month to month. So that's why metrics are so important. Sometimes they can feel a little tedious, right? You're just like, I just gotta, you know, populate this Excel spreadsheet and come up with this number. Is that really that important? Well, it can be. It can be that important. And it is important to make sure it's how you know how the business is doing. I mean, it'd be like going to school and not getting a report card. Did you do good? Did you not do good? You know, even school, you get measured, right? You get grades, you get A's, B's, C's. That tells you how well you're doing. So metrics and measurements are really important to let you know how your business is doing. The last thing that we'll be doing this week, not related to the group project, is your math section. The math this week, we're going to be kind of revisiting the very end of PC 101, where we started talking about point slope formula and graphing lines. We're going to go back to that. So if you have some of your notes from the end of PC 101, now's a great time to pull those out, maybe review them a little bit. But if not, there's links in the in the lessons this week to all those videos that were also in PC 101, and we'll be starting talking about that. So that's all I have for you. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, if you're struggling in the group, anything like that. I'm here to help, and I'm happy to be of service to you guys. So have a great week, and we'll see you next week.